WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
I love Paris in the springtime.
Yes, everybody seems to love Paris in the springtime. Tonight on PM Magazine, we'll begin a special week-long series from this romantic city. Come with us as we explore the sights and sounds that Paris has become famous for.
Then he's the entertainment phenomenon of the 80s, Michael Jackson. You'll see where Michael was raised and hear the first song he ever recorded.
Plus, get inside Michael's private world with his personal photographer and look at some exclusive pictures of his life today.
There can be no mistaking what you're looking at. Welcome to one of the most romantic cities in the world, Paris, France. Bonsoir, I'm Steve Doyle.
And I'm Pat Brown. And tonight we begin a very special week of stories here on PM Magazine. Every night we're going to be highlighting a different attraction that Paris has become famous for.
Such as the fashion, the food, the entertainment, of course, the sightseeing. Behind us, you'll recognize what has become the symbol of France, the Eiffel Tower.
Now, later on in the show, we'll be taking you up inside the Eiffel Tower to the Tower Restaurant. But right now, let's explore the sights and the sounds that make Paris come alive in the springtime.
No city in the world has been the subject of more songs or the cause of more passion than Paris, France. Ernest Hemingway described Paris as a movable feast, a city whose qualities are so infectious that once you've visited it, you end up carrying bits of the experience around with you forever. And so it was for us, two Americans in Paris, ready to indulge in the banquet.
Whether it was a stroll through the Tuileries to watch the children at play, or a visit to the celebrated Opera House with its beautiful Baroque facade, Paris is one rare treasure hunt with historical gems to be found in every direction.
A great battle was fought here, a style of painting born there. From saints and kings to architects and authors, they've all left their mark on Paris. The historical nucleus of the city is Ile de la Cité. Here you'll find Notre Dame Cathedral with its spectacular flying buttresses. The church took almost 200 years to build. With a grand rose-stained glass window and eerie gargoyles, this architectural marvel has become one of Paris's most photographed monuments.
Another landmark that is as much a part of the Paris skyline as the Eiffel Tower is the Church of Sacré-Cœur, high on the Montmartre hill. It was here that Steve and I got a sample of the lifestyle that's made Montmartre famous.
It was to these narrow and crowded streets in Place de Tertre that many French poets and artists came for their inspiration. These streets once were bustling with a rich and picturesque bohemian life. In fact, it was here that Toulouse-Lautrec first immortalized the bawdy French can-can dance in his posters at Moulin Rouge.
Here in the Place du Tertre, in the shadow of the Sacré-Cœur, you can pick up an original piece of artwork for just a few francs, or if you'd rather, you can have your own personal portrait drawn.
Voila.
Voila. There they are, the French Pat and Steve.
Superbe, hein?
Merci, merci.
Merci bien. As Montmartre is a haven for painters, so the modern Pompidou Center is a playground for performers. Sightseeing can be a full-time job in Paris, but be sure to leave some time for shopping. The stores range from the ultra-modern Les Halles complex to the quaint streets of Saint-Germain.
While Steve enjoyed browsing the antique and print shops on Rue Napoleon, I made a special visit to the Louis Ferraud Design Studios.
Oh, this one.
I think this was it. Let me go try it on. The first dress, a one-of-a-kind beaded wonder, was très chic and cost $10,000. But the piece de resistance was a gown of jewels and feathers, accessorized by Mr. Ferraud himself.
You become like a princess.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes.
What do you think? From haute couture to haute cuisine, Paris offers only the crème de la crème. And its elegance and intrigue by day only become more seductive in the evening light, with restaurants, discos, and dance halls staying open till the wee hours of the morning.
It's a city of excitement, enchantment, and true renaissance. Perhaps that's why it's been said that good Americans, when they die, go to Paris.
You know, people often wonder about the weather when they're planning a vacation overseas. Well, they tell us that the weather in Paris compares roughly to that of New York, only a little more temperate. It's a little cooler in the summers, a little warmer in the winter.
Now, in the springtime, you can expect temperatures somewhat like today. It's in the 50s and 60s.
Very pleasant.
Now, in the afternoon, sometimes you'll encounter a brief shower, but that usually passes by quickly.
Well, if you'd like to vacation here, stay with us, because a little later on in this PM magazine, we'll tell you how you might win a free trip for two to Paris.
Coming up next, the #1 superstar of the 80s, Michael Jackson.
When I first heard of MCI, I didn't sign up right away. Oh, I believe they'd cut my long-distance bills, and I knew that millions of people already liked MCI, and that all I had to do was call MCI and start saving. But the fact was, I continued to use AT&T. Then I remembered a piece of advice my grandmother gave me years ago. Mervyn, she said, don't be a jerk.
Call MCI. Join Merv and millions of others, saving up to 30, 40, even 50%.
There's more for your life. Getting big, growing tall. Need more, give more, that's not all. There's more for your life at Sears. And then some. Need more help, Craftsman's there. Need more room and more to wear. It's time to expand. We'll give you a hand. There's more for your life. More for your life at Sears.
They use informants, wiretaps, false identities, conduct secret meetings, and sometimes even steal important documents from the other side's garbage. It's called industrial espionage, and it's costing American businesses as much as $20 billion in losses each year. WCCO Television News investigates who's playing the new spy game, beginning Monday on the 10 p.m. report.
There's a little more to love in a plumper, 'cause there's a little more plumper to love. There's a little more to love in a plumper, 'cause there's a little more plumper to love. Good food, great fun, all look up to one. Plumpers! There's a little more to love in a plumper, 'cause there's a little more plumper to love.
Look for plumpers in the new blue package.
A little more to love.
Even here in Paris, Michael Jackson is in the media spotlight. It seems that wherever you go, people love his music. Now, in case you didn't know it, next month, Michael and his brothers are going to begin what promises to be the largest concert tour in history. Well, we decided to find out just where the Jackson 5 got its start. So right now, let's go to Gary, Indiana. We're going to visit Michael's former home and school and talk to the folks who knew him when he was just the littlest Jackson.
He appears as if by magic, this electrifying entertainer who thrills us like no other. At 25, Michael Jackson is the hottest star of the 80s, adored, loved, and pursued by millions. But the glamorous world of show business was only a pipe dream for the little boy who grew up in a small industrial city in northern Indiana.
I'm going back to Indiana.
I'm Dale Harimoto. In 1958, when Michael was born here, Gary, Indiana was a poor working-class town. Most of the people worked in the steel mills or old factories, and it was a struggle just to make a decent living.
Joe Jackson earned $5,000 a year as a crane operator in the mill, hardly enough to support a wife and 9 children. But the Jacksons encouraged their children to pursue music. Music, they hoped, would be the way out.
The neighbors say that on a hot summer night when the windows were open, you could hear some exciting sounds coming from this white frame house on the corner of 23rd and Jackson. In fact, it was one of the neighbors who suggested calling the boys the Jackson 5. But little did anyone realize that the youngest member of the group, Michael, age 5, would go on to become a musical phenomenon.
Walter Nelson grew up next door to the Jackson boys. A lot of late-night conversations took place between the bedroom windows of these 2 houses. But Walter remembers Michael as the quiet one.
You didn't play, you know, like with the other kids as much. Just, you know, like we would play baseball and marbles and wrestle and things of that nature. Mike didn't. He stayed away from that. He was kind of shut in.
Walter, is there one story you remember about Michael as a kid?
Yes, my father got a new car. And you know how you open the car door and the buzzer sounds? Okay, Mike actually got harmony with the buzzer. You know, you had to sing high to make that sound with the buzzer on the car, you know, and I remember that when I see him today, you know, how in the world could he do that?
Michael wasn't the only talented kid on the block, but he was a standout. At one time, there were 69 children living in the neighborhood, and half of them were in musical groups. Michael's group, the Jackson 5, actually had 7 members, including Raynard Jones on guitar and Milford Height on drums. They remember that even then, Michael had his own ideas about how to do a song.
If you wanted Michael to do something, you know, say, stand at a certain part of the stage or sing a certain song, and he really didn't feel comfortable with it, you know, he wouldn't do it.
Ben Brown was the first person to really take a chance on the Jacksons, and shortly after he signed them, the Jackson 5 recorded their first single. It was called Big Boy, and it was a minor hit in 5 states.
I'm a big boy now, that's looking for someone to love.
Michael certainly has the reputation of being very shy, almost reclusive now. Was he like that then?
Well, he certainly, I don't think, was shy, but we're talking now about a person who was 5 and a half, 6, and 7 years old, so he was a child. But I can remember when we were taking one of the very first promotional photographs. We had taken several shots, and Michael was kind of pouting. And his father said, "Mike, what's the matter?" And Mike said, "Dad, this looks like a family portrait. This is a business photograph." He said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And Michael, now 6 years old, set all the guys up and then got in front of them, put his foot this way, and took a perfect photograph.
Michael's big break came when he was only in the 5th grade. Diana Ross saw the Jacksons perform in Gary and brought them to the attention of Berry Gordy, the head of Motown Records.
Gordy invited them to entertain at one of his big Motown parties in Detroit. Well, the audience went wild. And 2 months later, with recording contract in hand, Michael and his family left their Indiana roots in hopes of finding some California gold.
Don't go away. When Pat and I return, we'll have taken the elevator to the 2nd level of the Eiffel Tower to see the incomparable view from the Jules Verne restaurant.
And we'll have part 2 of our Michael Jackson story.
Running free, playing free. Kids are going sugar-free. One sugar-free for kids.
Leave it to Kool-Aid to make a sugar-free for kids. Pre-sweetened 100% with natural-tasting NutraSweet.
Oh, super.
At about half the price of soda. With vitamin C, Kool-Aid's the only sugar-free for my kids.
One sugar-free for kids.
Kool-Aid brand sugar-free soft drink mix.
I'm Frank Shorter. I'll never forget that feeling of exultation. The Olympics are the world's greatest sporting event. The Olympics are fantastic.
Sanyo video products are helping to train the athletes of the 1984 U.S. Olympic team. Sanyo, official video products of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics.
There's something new happening at Greyhound. Something that can save you money. Introducing Greyhound's new lower fares. Minneapolis to Chicago was $39.90, now only $29.95. Minneapolis to Milwaukee was $38.05, now only $28.55. New lower fares. A new reason to go Greyhound and leave the driving to us.
Some of the thousands of parts Chevy Celebrity shares with its lookalikes, Buick Century and Old Sierra. One thing they don't share is Chevy's lower price, $1,313 less than Sierra, $1,393 less than Century. In fact, in every case where Buick, Olds, and Chevy share like bodies, the Chevy name saves you up to $1,500. Come drive Celebrity at Twin Cities Chevy dealers.
Right now, we're in the Jules Verne restaurant on the second level of the Eiffel Tower. And as you can see, it offers just a breathtaking view of the panorama of Paris, as well as a true taste of the Parisian lifestyle.
You know, I was interested to learn that the Eiffel Tower wasn't always so popular. In fact, back in 1909, it was very nearly torn down until the French Army discovered that it was an excellent communication station because of its height. Now they are doing everything possible to preserve this landmark.
Well, while we sip our café au lait, right now let's return to the second part of our Michael Jackson story.
It's 1970. Michael and his family had moved out of their cramped two-bedroom home in Gary, Indiana, into this spacious home in the Hollywood Hills.
But now, the Jacksons were preparing for an even bigger move, this time to the top of the charts with the hit single that would establish Michael and his brothers as bona fide stars.
I Want You Back is still considered to be one of the all-time greats. For songwriter and producer Freddie Perrin, this was the beginning of a professional and personal relationship with Michael that would continue over the years.
He was a normal kid. They would, you know, write little things on a piece of paper and put double-edged tape on it and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And then the back of it will say, "Hit me," you know, and you wonder why everybody's hitting you, you know. They did all sorts of little jokes and things like that, but when it came time to work, he was the hardest worker I ever worked with.
The Jacksons had their first of many hits, putting them on an equal par with other Motown greats, the Temptations, the Four Tops, and the Supremes. Mary Wilson of the Supremes affectionately describes Michael this way.
He's a brat. I mean, he was so much in love with life. But Michael, my son, and Chico, Dinah's brother, were like three little, you know, what's going on here? And they were into everything. So I would say he was a typical young boy, but who had extraordinary talents.
Michael and the Jacksons had one success after another. And by the late 70s, we see Michael emerge as an aggressive and exciting solo performer. But there is another side to Michael that the public rarely sees. The introverted young man who lives behind closed gates in Encino, California. Todd Gray spent 4 years photographing Michael at home. These exclusive shots give us a rare look into Michael's personal life.
His basic personality is that of an introvert or a quiet person, or a person that enjoys reading, he's very comfortable and at ease with himself. And then he's around his family, and he has his family members, and he has a very loving environment that he lives in.
On the one hand, I hear that he's very shy and sweet, but then on the other hand, I hear that when he's working, he really takes charge, he directs.
He will direct you. At the house once, last year, I was photographing him, and let's see, on the mezzanine in his home, he has a little bay window, and it's cushioned, and he can read in there and so forth, and I was doing photographs of him reading. And he had on mismatching socks. And I said, Michael, you know, these are mismatching socks. And he goes, yeah, I know, I put them on. I said, but, I mean, isn't that a little strange? And he goes, yeah, don't you think so? And I said, oh, okay. And then I would photograph it. I mean, the guy would amaze me.
Is there one photograph of Michael that you think captures his essence?
I don't think I could do it in one. I'd have to make a whole movie or something. for right now, that's a real close starter. I mean, because all that spark, but you get the glitter and you get the spark, but you don't get the warmth and the compassion. Maybe a really beautiful photograph of a fawn or a cat napping, you know, or a child playing, something like that, that just shows human love, you know, human kindness and human warmth. Because really, that's what he's all about. Just a human being who's full of love that wears glitter socks.
Turning to our people page, let's meet a 95-year-old Stillwater, Minnesota woman who's been working at the same job since 1904.
A visit to Stillwater, Minnesota is like stepping back in time. This sleepy town on the banks of the St. Croix River dates from the early days of Minnesota statehood. In many ways, it hasn't changed since the turn of the century. At least not for Venie Kelson. This 95-year young woman has been working at the same job since 1904. She recently celebrated her 80th anniversary as a bookkeeper for the Simonette Furniture Company. In her long career, Venie has seen presidents from Teddy Roosevelt to Ronald Reagan. She's survived 2 world wars, the evolution of the automobile, and even the telephone.
The boss came in and he said, "Why in hell don't you answer that telephone?" And I started to cry. I said, "I don't know how." Well, he didn't believe me. I had seen one at school, but we didn't have one at home, and none of our friends had one, so I didn't know how to use it. It was horrible. You know, isn't it terrible that they would send a 15-year-old one out into the business world and didn't know how to answer a telephone?
Once Venie mastered the telephone, she became a valuable employee. And from the start, the rewards were generous.
The first month was a $20 gold piece. I took that home and gave it to my mother. And the next month, I got a $25 check. And then I got $25 for a long time.
Venie still recalls a purchase she made with one of her first paychecks.
A floral dress trimmed with lace, and this was a little hat with flowers on it. And I had a big ribbon in my hair. Yep. And then the man up the street calling their store, he offered me a job. And I was getting $100 then, and he offered me $125. So I came back and told Mr. Simonette that I was going to work for Colliners. And he wanted to know how much they were going to give me, and I told him $125. And he says, "I'll give you $125, so I stayed here.
And stay she did. Venie has seen 3 generations of Simonettes grow up to run the business. They're like her own family, and she credits them for her 80-year career.
Well, I think it's only because these people are so good to me. They pick me up in the morning, and I work 4 or 5 hours, and I go home, they take me home. And there aren't many bosses that would do that.
And there aren't many employees a boss can count on for 80 years of devoted service.
How would you like to vacation in beautiful Paris, France? Well, when we return, we'll tell you how you could win a free trip for 2 to Paris right here on PM Magazine.
Columbo's Puffs the French! Columbo's Puffs the French!
Introducing Columbo's French Bread Pizza. Tasty Italian toppings on crisp French bread.
Columbo's renverse les Français.
Columbo's tops the French because only Columbo's starts with crispy, heart-baked French bread, topped with original recipe sauce, mounds of real mozzarella cheese, and choice Italian toppings.
Columbo's è suo dei francesi.
Columbo's new French bread pizza. It tops the French.
You're my tab, you're one of a kind. You're a 1-calorie friend of mine. You're my tab, you're the taste for me. You're beautiful and you're full of can be. So you know what I think. You're my perfect soft drink.
My taste.
You're not my diet anything. You're my tab.
What else?
You're not my diet anything. You're my tab.
For every age of child, there's something that is wild at the Minnesota Zoo.
This place is a real zoo.
The long, dry spell is over. Finally, high technology has come to lawn and garden watering products. Introducing Gardena, a revolutionary line of spray guns, innovative click-on connectors, and the world's most advanced sprinklers. Precision tooled and turbo-driven for years of more natural coverage. Gardena watering products. There's nothing like them on Earth. Except maybe rain.
Available at these fine stores.
Why can't Johnny read? Diglycerides, Johnny.
Oh.
Cellulose gum, Johnny.
Poly.
Polysorbate 80, Johnny. Unlike most ice cream, the Breyers ice cream label is easy to read because we use only all natural ingredients.
Milk.
Yes, milk, Johnny.
Cream.
All right, cream, Johnny.
Strawberry.
Yes, Johnny, strawberry.
Breyers.
Yes, Johnny, Breyers, the all-natural ice cream. Johnny can read. Can you?
This view from the Eiffel Tower is one of the loftiest in all of Paris, and on a clear day, you can see the whole city and the surrounding neighborhoods for a 40-mile radius.
Now, the top level, which is about twice as high as this, the second level, was recently reopened, and for about 34 francs, or a little over $4, the view is a must for the visitor here.
Now, you two have a chance to vacation in this wonderful city because we're giving away a free trip for two to Paris, France.
And here's all you have to do to enter. Just send a postcard with your name, address, and phone number to PM Magazine, Paris Sweepstakes, Post Office Box 84, Minneapolis, Minnesota 55440.
All entries must be mailed in. You cannot drop them off at the station. Now, you can enter as often as you wish, but entries must be mailed separately. The contest closes May 23rd, and entries must be received by 5 p.m. that day.
The grand prize is a 2-week vacation for two in Paris. It includes air transportation, courtesy of Charter Travel Corporation, and hotel accommodations provided by Hotel Sofitel in Paris.
The trip must be taken by leaving July 19th and returning August 2nd. A list of rules is available at WCCO TV.
Tomorrow on PM Magazine, we'll continue our special week from Paris as we discover the fabulous French fashions.
We'll go inside the Girbeau Design Studio, which has recently made blue jeans a very fashionable item.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our first night in Paris. Remember, we'll be here all week.
Bonne nuit. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
Transportation for the PM crew to France was provided by TWA. More people fly TWA to Europe and the Middle East than any other airline. TWA, #1 across the Atlantic.
Stay tuned for Scarecrow and Mrs. King next here on Channel 4.
You, just made for you.
Gotcha.
Ooh, win money and prizes playing the Taco Bell Gotcha Nachos Belgrande game. Gotcha. Play and you could win free Nachos Belgrande or free Pepsi instantly. Or collect Nachos Belgrande ingredient game pieces.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And win up to $1,000.
Gotcha Nachos Belgrande.
Once you start playing, we gotcha.
Taco Bell, it's just me.
Gotcha for you.
Our first cheese master, J.L. Kraft himself, knew that to make great natural cheese, you had to test each cheese personally. Today, J.L. Kraft Select Cheese Masters do it the same way.
They haven't invented a better way to test cheese. You got to touch it and taste it yourself to know if it's fresh enough for mild or aged enough for sharp. A cheese has to meet 85 quality standards before it's good enough for the J.L. Kraft Select seal. J.L. and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Look for this seal, only from the J.L. Kraft Select Cheese Masters.
Tonight on the 10 p.m. report, the effort to generate enough money to buy enough Twins tickets to keep the team in Minnesota has apparently paid off. The announcement came at a morning news conference. Minnesota property owners face a deadline of paying the first half of their property tax by tomorrow midnight to avoid a penalty. And a rare sight was seen on the south lawn of the White House today when President Reagan joined forces with Michael Jackson to help fight teenage drug and alcohol abuse. Join us with more tonight on the 10 p.m. report.